I now call to order the regular meeting of the Township of Morris Planning Board for June 1st, 2026. The legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and a statement certifying same will be executed. Can you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. Okay, Ron, could you take the roll call, please?
Mr. Alessa?
Here.
Ms. Van Order?
Here.
Mr. Nunn?
Here.
Mr. Rabbit?
Here.
Ms. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Benoit?
Here.
Mr. Cohn?
Here.
Ms. Griglia?
Here.
Mr. Bai?
Here.
We have our Township Engineer, Joe Voigt.
Here.
Our Board Attorney, Mr. Warner.
Here.
And our Board Planner, Ms. Laney.
Here.
And I'm Ryan Kirkpatrick, Board Secretary.
Thank you. Okay, first item is the rather brief agenda tonight would be the consideration of the meeting minutes for the March 16th meeting. Any comments on the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment. There's two bullets that have the names of people that participated in the meeting from the applicant, and a third bullet where there's nothing there. And I'm thinking either we should have 3 names or 2 names with 2 bullets.
What?
I know exactly what you're talking about. We sworn a third professional who didn't end up testifying, so I'll remove that bullet.
And yeah, that way nobody says, oh, well, they
I
didn't say
understand,
who was.
apologies. I had
No.
the third person in there and I didn't remove the bullet.
I thought maybe you
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
think of the name or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments, corrections?
I had to compete with George, so I had
Well,
to say
yeah, I'm
something.
just surprised it came up from somebody other than George. Or you just beat him to it, I guess.
George is upset.
Maybe that.
Yeah, he was ready. He was ready.
If it helps, I also I caught a formatting error with my page numbers in the header, so I'll adjust that as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I move we accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes accepted. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Our other matters. Now, we don't have any applications before tonight, but I did want to hold a meeting in mind so that we could talk a little bit about the master plan since and we've had the 3 sessions so far, the public 4 sessions, and many of you have participated, which is good. But at this point, I wanted Liz to kind of summarize for those who haven't been there or those who didn't make all 3 sessions, many people, summarize what happened and where we are and briefly where we're going to go and get some thoughts from the planning board on where we're going from here. So
Right.
it's
Thank you.
up to you, Liz.
Thank you. So as noted, we had 3 meetings and some people were at all 3. Some people came to 2 and some people, came to 1. So we appreciate everybody who came out. I think it's refreshing for all of the professionals to be working on anything aside from affordable housing. And it's nice to, sorry. And it gives us an opportunity to focus, on other issues. And write-ups and of the meetings and videos have been uploaded and are in the process of being uploaded for all 3. We're also going to do a more thorough sort of bullet pointed write-up, but Nikhil, my colleague, is out of town, so I'm going to enlist him to do it when he gets back. But I wanted to talk today just a little bit on the sort of what I've been calling macro topics, which are sort of very broad terms of things that came up repeatedly. So this is not an exhaustive list of everything we heard. We do have that categorized, and that'll be, acknowledged, but this isn't everything. And I'm also going to read them, and they're in no particular order. So it doesn't mean that I mention, because I am going to mention mobility first, that is the most important issue. It's just how I happen to reflect on it today. And a couple of caveats that I think certainly the subcommittee recognized, which is that the attendance skewed older. And I think that is a bias that we're going to have to try to engage with some of the younger families, younger residents, just to make sure that we are hearing from everybody and not any one segment of the population has more sort of weight than others. But the first sort of macro topic that came up repeatedly was mobility and connectivity. People want alternatives to driving. They want to be able to feel that they can safely walk and bike to places, including from neighborhood to neighborhood, from their house to parks and open spaces, from their house to commercial areas, schools, other destinations, other towns, specifically, Morristown and Morris Plains were specifically mentioned. And so I think that's something clearly that the master plan is going to have to take a very careful, close look at. Certainly the trails system and the sidewalk connection. I know the Transportation Advisory Committee has worked on these issues and probably has a lot of good research already. But we'll, look at identifying gaps and potential connections. And, of course, there's always multiple aspects of this issue. For example, when the affordable housing development on Southgate Parkway, that ordinance was before the TC, a lot of residents who live near there were complaining that congestion has gotten so bad because of the bike lanes. But if you were to believe everybody who came to the public meetings, they love the bike lanes at Southgate Parkway. So, you can never please everyone, I guess, is the point. And similarly with sidewalks, I know that a lot of people want better sidewalks, more sidewalks, and then there are people who say, I don't want to have to maintain the sidewalk in front of my house. So there's always just this balancing of the equities that we're going to have to be careful, to consider. Another thing that was mentioned repeatedly was some sort of a hop on, hop off bus, particularly for seniors. It was called a trolley system, but something where people could circulate within the town or circulate maybe to downtown, Morristown center without having to drive themselves. The second macro topic was improvement to commercial corridors, upgrading the existing commercial corridors, Madison Avenue, Speedwell, Mount Kimball, Hanover. We're going to need to delve into these corridors, take a close look at them, what the trends are, the vacancies. I think we'll have to revisit the Madison Avenue corridor plan that was done. There's also, for example, on Madison Avenue, there are these soft sites that we really need to take a look at: MetLife, Madison Hotel, the Medical Office Park. And I think one of the questions that was raised, and I think it's a really good one, is what types of businesses can we reasonably attract in the township, where somebody would choose to be in the township rather than in Morristown, because Morristown, I think, was cited repeatedly as an asset. It's nice. It's so nice to have all that vibrant sort of downtown so close, but it could also be a competitor for attracting people to locate here, not, businesses. But a lot of people said they wanted to be able to walk to stores and restaurants, which I think something that we are going to have to look at again is the B11 zoning, which is sort of closer to some of those residential neighborhoods. Branding came up more than once, that people were saying, we don't know, not who we are, but it's just that we don't have a brand. The township doesn't, as maybe other maybe Montclair does, or Morristown, or some of these other communities. People did talk though about the rich historic stock and of places and buildings, and that could perhaps help. Another issue, and Linda Murphy has brought this up a couple times, which is these large corporate office parks. And obviously we found that in this most recent round of affordable housing, they were ripe for redevelopment because many of them are not fully tenanted. And I think that is going to be an important aspect too, if office parks are not, I shouldn't say the thing of the past because that's not true, but if they're waning, what else can they become aside from housing? Because there's got to be other alternatives. And I think that's something that we really should take a close look at. And that's not unrelated to architectural design and aesthetics of new development. And that was also brought up repeatedly, and including the enforcement of the existing standards. Sustainability, trees and preservation of the tree canopy, composting. This is on three. My macro topic 3, sustainability and climate, preparing for climate change. I think people talked a lot about flooding. There were a lot of concerns about infrastructure, the electric grid, stormwater management, roadways, and it was kind of intertwined, climate change with, we've had so much development, how are we going to be able to handle this going forward? So they're sort of go hand in hand, actually. But the concerns about the electric grid were interesting to me. That is something that's sort of a thing that people now are talking about a lot, not just in Morris Township. So I thought that was interesting. The fourth macro topic, housing diversity, that people want opportunities for your young families or younger people to move into town, that they are not priced out, especially people who may have grown up here, as well as seniors, to be able to stay in the community without having to leave the area in order to afford to stay. One particular thing that was brought up is accessory dwelling units, which is something certainly on a state level the state has been talking about for a few years. Traffic. That is obviously congestion, traffic safety. People mentioned specific intersections. There was a concern, and I think in the age of GPS that we all have, bypass routes are so easy now because your phone will tell you, oh, there's this traffic, just go down these local roads. And so what people are finding is, they're going through residential neighborhoods and people would like to see some traffic calming or something, so that there's not traffic that was intended for major corridors is being sort of rerouted through residential neighborhoods. Macro topic 6, diversity. Diversity of population, neighborhoods, building stock were all cited. And the concept of each neighborhood having its own sort of identity, and for lack of a better word, brand, was sort of interesting to me, that people identify perhaps with their neighborhood more than anything else, which I thought was a very interesting aspect to Morris Township, and maybe something that should be sort of highlighted in the plan. Those are the main topics. I'm sure I missed something, but I think that was kind of the big ones.
Any thoughts from those of you who attended or didn't attend? And one question I would ask, is there anything the ones that did attend, anything that surprised you in particular when it came up?
I think the trolley was the biggest surprise. Hop on, hop off. That one I hadn't heard before. And, from a broad perspective, it sounds wonderful, but I think the devil is in the details with that. Some of the other things that I thought I heard multiple times, because I was at all three, I did hear people didn't want those large data centers in the town, and they didn't want any ICE facilities in the town. So that did come up multiple times. So I don't think there was anything else. Liz, that you missed. Mobility, I think, was far and away, even though it was your number one, I think it was the far and away the biggest one for folks and traffic calming.
Mm-hmm.
Was there?
Yeah, Joe.
I wasn't at any of the sessions. Was one of the things that caught my ear was the idea that Morris Township wants to be Morristown. I mean, like we're, in my mind, a bedroom community. Like, we're not a city. Is there, we're not? Are people suggesting that we turn into?
No, I don't think so. I think the
They just
idea.
want to walk to Morristown.
There's
Yeah, right.
some of this. Yeah.
It was pretty
Like,
common. People like the fact that one of the things they like about that, we're close to Morristown.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
But I've heard several people say specifically, we don't want to be Morristown.
I'm
But
glad to hear that.
no, there also were people
There-
that said we
yeah.
should look at merging with Morristown.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
There
that
we
was
go.
the thing.
So there was both.
I don't mean the merging so much as like turning Morris Township into Morristown would change.
No, there was definitely probably I think even those who wanted to, who were advocating possibly looking at merging with Morristown didn't want to be like Morristown. They wanted to retain the residential
Feel.
kind of the feel that's
Was
here.
there any suggestions on how we would accomplish housing? I mean, other than building multi-story apartment complexes? Was there-
Generally, I think that people did not want, they were saying they didn't want multi-story complexes.
Was
The
there
only,
talk about condos so that, affordability for younger families, I mean, to get in?
the only thing, the only specifics that I heard, as Liz mentioned, were the ADUs. Other than that, they didn't, I didn't hear any specific
What they
housing
No,
really-
plans.
I
what they
think they're
wanted
looking
was
for affordable single-family homes.
affordability, But they didn't want high-density housing.
Right.
So there was that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah, right.
Unless they could create more land that we didn't know we had.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was at all three and was in fact a facilitator of the three different groups. They presented us with a bit of a dichotomy, as Joe points out, because they want more mobility and walkability with conveniences along the way. In other words, I want to walk down the street, maybe pop in and get a cup of coffee and then continue my walk. How do you zone for a B11 business in the middle or in proximity to a residential area? And the thought was they generally were okay with the affordable housing plan, but would like to see more single family homes developed. It's a challenge for us because our zoning is such now that we have some really large lot areas, 5 acres, 3 acres, 2 acres. Even where I am is a 0.8 acre. That's a pretty good sized lot. But we're out of land essentially unless we do something different with the zoning. So we're going to have to put some more thought and perhaps a deeper dive topic to follow with more input from the public on those subjects. Folks who have the large lots sometimes love them and sometimes they want to subdivide them. So we get a lot of applications coming here where people want to subdivide a larger lot for a variety of reasons. Could be that they want a family member to live next door, or they're trying to, fund their piggy bank for retirement, or any other number of reasons. And so we're in the middle of a planning challenge to try to accommodate as many of those wish list items as we can while still maintaining the suburban nature of our community and the fact that it's largely single family homes, even now with all the affordable housing that's gone in.
And if I could add to that, I think people generally understood high-density housing is coming. And they understood that the projects that we have are coming already, are coming. And to love you.
Oh, sorry.
But I think they have a hard time envisioning what that's going to look like because it's still a few years down the road. So on the one hand, they want to continue the residential nature. Then they want to be able to have, single-family homes or affordable homes for new families. What's coming, I think, was hard for them to realize and to assimilate into what their thoughts could be from the future. I have a hard time with that as well. We've approved projects for Madison Avenue and Columbia Turnpike and over by the highway, and I just envision this project that I'm not going to like, but we're going to have them. And so what we do around that coming up, I think people had a hard time trying to assimilate into what their vision is of the township. If that made any sense.
Well, I was just going to say, Joe, on the whole issue of, in almost every session, everybody loved the fact that we have Morristown. But it did come through about the branding or our own identity. And I've been hearing that since I got on the committee. Who is Morris Township? And we all know when they do like when Morristown gets named one of the top 5 best communities, on the East Coast, a big part of that is due to the township. So it's kind of this tug at, we want our own identity, but we do kind of like the stuff that we get from Morristown. And we've never yet on the Township Committee kind of taken that step of saying, well, who is Morris Township? And there are positive things about it, but there are also other pieces to that having an area like Morristown enhances our residents with a lot of stuff. So there was a lot of discussion on that. We're, trying to figure that piece out.
To the mayor's point, and because as long as I've been on the committee, that's something that's been near and dear to me is how do we put Morris Township on the map when everybody knows from grade school, historic Morristown. And I think that the looking at the new master plan would be an excellent opportunity to go out to the residents to find, what do we want to be? And I think if we can incorporate that into the new master plan, I think that'll go a long way to helping the township committee and future governing bodies to devise something and move us in that direction. So I think that that's a very key issue.
Another interesting thing just that we learned, because at one of the tables they asked, is how did Morris Township become this big circle around Morristown? Like, why? Who would have done that? And even was new to me, the real reason. Thank God Tim Quinn was there, because it's from the 1800s or whatever. It was all Morris Township. It was all the Morris Plains, Morristown, Morris Township, and it was a water issue. It was over water that Morristown seceded from Morris Township. So that was interesting for people to hear. But a question I heard a couple times is, we always talk about it, but it is odd. Like, who developed this big circle that touches 10 different other municipalities?
I have a couple of things I'd
Yeah,
like to
let's
say. One is about single-family housing for younger people who can't afford a typical new house as they're currently being constructed in Morris Township. I feel like this is something we need to think about when a developer takes over a lot nowadays. They build the largest house they can that will fit on the lot and meet our zoning requirements, or get approved by the zoning board for a couple of variances perhaps. So they're building, 3,500 square foot homes, 4,000 square foot homes. When I first got married, I moved to a house in Madison that was under 2,000 square feet. I think a lot of people, younger people, that's what they want. They want a smaller house, and it would be nice to try to figure out a way to increase the stock of smaller houses in Morris Township for people who are starting out, rather than encouraging larger homes, so that we have the diversity of population that we want. So that's one comment I wanted to make. And then another one is about traffic. I think traffic is a good example of something which we need to think about, whether there's a way we can increase our influence to allow us to have some control over our situation when there's a development that will increase traffic on a particular roadway. We're usually given a traffic study that shows, there might be an additional 20 cars an hour that are coming in peak time onto the roadway from this new development. And we're told, well, that's not a significant increase in the traffic, and it's probably not a significant increase in the traffic. But when you do that 10 times, then suddenly you've got a problem. And it's a problem over which we have no control at all. So if there were some way for our planning board and other planning boards in New Jersey to get some kind of method for giving us some power to deny or modify applications based on traffic outside of the developed area, I think that would be a big step forward. Controversial, but something that would be popular with our residents and would help maintain the quality of life in our township.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, and I should have added this earlier, was this concept of things happening regionally. And so let's say Morris township has a moratorium. I'm just doing something extreme. Well, it doesn't matter if the neighboring towns don't, because that means all the traffic is going to come. And I think traffic is one. I think stormwater, but certainly Joe can speak to this better than I. But there are a few things that I think really can't be done in isolation, because if you can do what you can do, but if everyone around you is doing something different, not doing what you're doing, then it's going to be not as effective. And so I thought that there actually was almost a request, whether people actually explicitly said it or not, but that there be more regional examination of some of those issues.
That's what they would ask for if they knew to ask for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But similarly, they did talk about that just with the addition of new homes and expansion of population in the township on infrastructure in general, that's already past a useful life. So I think the issue that George raised on the traffic studies that came up, I think on both of my groups, we only look at the instantaneous effects of traffic, not the long-range effects of traffic. So I think that is something that on the one hand, people see it's coming. On the other hand, we also see the fact that we don't have sufficient infrastructure for today's population, let alone what it might be in 20 years.
If I might build on the infrastructure thing, one of the things that came up in at least one of my sessions, and maybe more than one, the idea of us planning infrastructure changes basically around each application.
Mm-hmm.
So we do it in the moment, it's current for the application in front of us. But if we know, for example, longer term, that things are coming at us, we could foresee that. Is there a way for us to plan infrastructure with a longer horizon? So for example, allowing for a left turn lane off of a road, even though it's not application specific, to do that in advance and plan it out in a way that prepares so that we're not caught short with a real traffic situation that's driven by a particular application. So I think there might be a way we could do that within the guidelines of the municipal land use law, but I think it's going to require us to do something a little bit different than we've done in the past.
Some of that is being done now, at least not necessarily for traffic, but certainly you look at what the county has done in many other road projects.
Right. Well, the county.
And it looks kind of funny now with the intersections where they have crosswalks and crosswalks and sidewalk landings and everything, and no sidewalks.
Right.
But they have done that so they don't have to go back sometime in the future and redo them. So that is being, that are being done. Some things are being
And the
done.
point about some things just are regional in nature, because if your neighbor Joe does something that impacts you, you need to know that and be prepared to deal with that without it coming to you as a surprise later on, and that often happens.
I would love for our plan to say that we're going to comment, we're going to try to improve communication with the state on traffic issues and on communication on particular intersections and roadways. I remember the first time I got a visit at my house from an elected official years ago. Peter Mancuso came to my house campaigning for office, and asked if there was anything I wanted to talk about. And I said, yes, there's a traffic light out here at the intersection nearest us. And when the light turns green, my wife can't walk across the road fast enough before the light turns red again. And cars want to drive across where she's walking. And he said, oh, well, that's a state road, so I can't do anything about that. That really annoyed me. And I felt like for a local official to say, I have no power and I can't even talk, to imply I can't even talk to the folks down in Trenton about this. I think we need to do better than that, and we need to have some kind of process, and we need to say in our plan we're going to try to establish a process that involves getting the state to pay attention to us. You'll put it more tactfully, I'm sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I went to the one in Freeling Heights in the first one, and first I just want to commend the subcommittee and you, Liz, at really, I think, managing a really nice process that, gave the folks the residents that were participating, real sense of real control over what was being recorded, how it was reported back. I thought it was a good process. I heard in my group, and I think I heard it in the other groups, and I was only in that one group, all the things that you said, so maybe the same people just kept coming back. But there was a lot about safety. Safety was really kind of echoed a lot. And we did have one younger person in our group. It was one of the very few younger people in the assembly that we had there. And safety was a really big concern. And also not just, again, this is a little bit to George's point, not just we access things that are owned and operated and controlled by the county too, safety in parks. So I can walk to Lewanika Park from where I live. That's one of the really nice features about where I live. But if I'm going to get mowed down by somebody who's on, going too fast on a scooter, or I'm so concerned about my grandchildren, getting hit, like that communication around that and the whole issue of safety, I think is really important, not just to me, but to the voices that I was listening to. And similar to what you said, and I don't know how this gets corrected, but long before I was on the planning board, I had contacted the township and said, wow, I live in the neighborhood of Ginty Pool, and I just can't understand why it's not a priority to put it's the easiest thing. You've just a sidewalk, right down to get to on South Street to get to the Lewanika Park. You see kids all the time on that, on that road. Cars go very fast on that road. That's the county road, So it seems like we could, as a township, find out, even have a wish list for the county. I mean, I know obviously they're going to have to come in with the funding, the engineering and all that stuff. But what I was advised at that time was that I contact the county to talk about it. And that felt a little overwhelming to me at that time to do. So, I just wanted to lift that up as well. No, not Bannock. South Street, connect where the pool is to Lewanika on South Street, Lewanika Park, the entrance there. So you're talking about South Street.
Right.
I see it Hackney.
Right.
In front of Seton Hackney.
Right.
Yeah, right. Anything else, right? On? Well, I think Liz had one question for us that she wanted answered before we left.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the one question I wanted to go around, and I know we didn't give anybody any forewarning, but it's the one issue that you must see addressed in the master plan. So we can give you 2 minutes to do that.
Can I go first?
Yeah, please, yeah, go ahead.
Appropriate setbacks on Madison Avenue so that it doesn't turn into a canyon.
Okay.
You're going to build affordable housing at the JCP&L site, which I think is a piece of this. Maybe that's what's driving that. We're going to also have market rate residential.
Mhm.
I think there's a good opportunity for us to be able to work with the setbacks, condemn Old Turnpike Road, push the community back. And this way it's not on top of Madison Avenue. And then we don't lose our residential feel and get high density housing.
Is it too late to make that kind of change on that project?
I don't know, is it?
Well, there's an
It
ordinance.
doesn't change anything.
There's an ordinance in place. There's a land use board process to come. So I think I would never say everything's too late.
But like for vacating a road, for example,
Okay, that's different.
how about the setbacks? The setback in the ordinance or the whatever was 20 feet. Now,
I don't think you can change the setback without the land. There's a certain amount of density that they've designed, and only where that density works is if the building's on top of the road. So in order to get
unless
the
we
density,
increase the height of the building.
unless we increase the height of the building. But I don't know if stacked townhouses can go up another story, because then they wouldn't be stacked townhouses anymore.
Well, it would have been nice to have these discussions before the plan was approved. So,
Beyond my purview. Liz asked the question, I just answered.
yeah, okay.
We'll have an
So
opportunity.
my question is, it too late? It sounds to me like yes, it's too late, but within the confines of the
Planning board process.
whatever, we can move things around. But the big part, it's too late.
All right, so that's your.
That's my one suggestion, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Are we going to go in this order?
I guess, yeah.
I'm not a person that can just
Okay. You want to
do this. I'll hold this for a moment and I'll consider.
Okay.
I'll pass.
Okay.
He wants more fire engines. One of the things that,
You
that,
can also tell me another time.
one of the things that I think we heard a lot of, and I think it's because the demographics were a little skewed to, to older people, of which, oh my God, I'm one of them, is people wanted to be able to retire here in the township. So I think that if the master plan addresses senior services, I think that would be very beneficial.
Just a quick question, just on that topic.
Yeah.
Just, do we have the ability to zone areas for senior housing? I mean, I don't know that we have like a retirement, like I think Hovnanian off the top of my head.
It
We
was
have-
real popular for a while, but
It's
then
not
they all had to
popular
come
anymore.
Yeah,
back. They
it's not
couldn't sell
popular,
them, so
yeah.
they had to get them like rezoned to
change it up,
allow,
yeah,
open up.
Del Webb community and that was a Florham Park.
Yeah.
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 No, that's real popular.
Yeah.
Besides that, multi-generational is more popular now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's, the other thing that came up often was the people wanted multi-generational housing.
Yeah.
It's like they wanted all.
So I was just tagging along.
Yeah.
So we used, they called them CDCs, right? Or what was it, what used to be called
I
something?
think Del Webb.
We had the 55 and plus applications
Yeah,
a couple of times,
right.
but I don't think they ever,
No, I think they all fell through or had to be
well, the market turned away from
Yeah.
it, so.
Well, a couple things. I mean, I would, have to say we have to address traffic somehow, but I thought, specific, that the housing stock would be, the mix of housing, the missing middle, looking at the zoning around, they say ADUs were mentioned and not specifically, but, we talked, and then George talked about, encouraging, smaller houses, but that would also possibly include the, more, we have some very confined areas that are zoned for like, duplexes or triplexes, multifamily, single lot, multifamily, things that we'd probably look at. Because, if you look at, the townhouse development, with 5 units an acre, that's those, in terms of density, that's less dense than our, whatever, the 7,500 square foot minimum. But nobody seems, people obviously like townhouses because they move into them, but aesthetically, people not, but, would,
Move out.
small, individual houses at that same density, would that be more acceptable?
So Liz, I think what I take from this whole discussion, what an important thing to me too, is when I heard about how important it was about the safety. And as we do the master plan, that we kind of have that consideration. And to Mr. Ravitz's point, and I think it's very important to take care of our aging population, but just as importantly to me, we're going to try to get more young people, because I think as you're doing a new master plan, that's a really important piece. I would love to see the township remain this community for young families. We have so many such great stuff in the township that's available, recreation, pools, all kinds of activities. And I think that that's something that we have to make sure, just having a new community center at some point, which will be, within the next 10 years, hopefully. But I think that's a focus that we need to get young people involved and make sure that's part of our vision over the next 10 years.
Thank you.
Both Tanya and Donna's comments, there were concerns about safety, but safety was one of the things that people mentioned as one of the things they liked about the town, that, you know, they do feel safe. It is safe. They just wanted to make sure that it
Stays
stayed
that
that
way.
way and got
Yeah.
better. It wasn't they were, you know, feeling unsafe at the
Yeah.
time.
Was it, when they were talking about safety, were they talking about it from a traffic perspective or crime?
No, not crime.
Both.
Both.
But
Yeah.
they said they like that they feel safe from a crime perspective and that they would prefer, you know, that all developments keep in consideration, especially the needs of children, pedestrians, yeah.
So I've already made a couple of suggestions. I guess the other one that I can think of is even vaguer than the others, which is I wish that under the land use law, we had more freedom to try to shape the nature of our commercial developments so that we encourage the kind of commercial development we like and discourage the kind of commercial development we don't like so much. But the law tends to forbid that. You can't exclude a business that it's just a business that you don't like. You know, if you've got a couple of Subway shops and a Dunkin' Donuts and another similar type of business wants to move in next door and you'd rather have something else, you can't say I'd rather have something else. But somehow it would be nice to have a little bit of power there, more than what we have. An example that I think of is along the Madison Avenue corridor, we have 3 gas stations. Do we need 3 gas stations there? I wish that instead we had something else.
So sort of attracting,
Part of that is marketing or image.
that's what I'm wondering.
Right.
So it's sort of making a greater outreach potentially to the kinds of maybe different potential commercial tenants.
Right. But also having within the master plan and within the legal structure that we've established, something that gives us some authority to guide how things develop over time. And that may be very difficult under the current state law.
Yeah. Save it for later.
So I don't have one overriding issue at this point, but my takeaway from the 2 sessions I went to is that we're going to be having a community survey. And maybe at that time, it'd be nice to include some sort of visioning board concept where, like if you're familiar with visioning boards, say you want to buy a house, well, you go around, you take pictures out of magazines, whatever, of what you want, and eventually you buy the house. You can envision the house you want by looking at your visioning board throughout time. So we could, as a group, as a committee, we could welcome it onto the survey site. Welcome pictures or statements of what we would like the community to look like. Maybe things we don't want and things we do want. We had a quick conversation a while ago about how do you get nice looking affordable housing? Well, if you drive around and you look at affordable housing, you like this one, this one, and this one, you can put those on there and say, well, those 3 that I don't like, we don't want affordable housing that looks like that. Because we welcome affordable housing. We want it to be included into the rest of the housing that we have. But we don't want a developer, and I think we're protected somewhat by ordinance now, to say, okay, well, this portion is what. So whether it's the tree canopy, the parks, the sidewalks, the playgrounds, we're talking verbally about things that are important to us and what we would like. But I think it's really, really helpful if we could look at it visually and become a part of our vision for the master plan, particularly that it could be included in the vision statement of the master plan, which would be the very first chapter anyway. So it would help inform what it is that we're really looking for in the future. And I think visually it's really important to do that. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, they have visual preference surveys, you know, where people, and we've thought about it internally at my office about you can do it pretty effectively now using online tools, you know, so that people can, anyway, that's something I think we should look into. Yes.
Yeah, because we don't want people throwing in, I mean, we'd have to screen stuff before it gets put to the website or something that we want.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do it without.
But, right, but the idea, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm going to say a couple of things. At the heart of the matter for us, I think our challenge is being creative. And that leads us to looking really hard at zoning from two perspectives. If we want the diversity of housing stock, we have to set the stage for that to happen. Our current zoning is prohibiting us from building affordable single-family homes, for example. I don't know if it's so popular here, but I've lived in other states where affordable homes for young people are often cluster homes. They still have a backyard, it's a single family home, and then they have some common areas, playgrounds and whatnot for the kids. We would have to change our zoning to accommodate something like that because we can't do it under our current conditions. The same thing is true of our office parks, which are challenged with increasing vacancies and lack of tenants. We have some good buildings that maybe we just need to be creative about how we purpose those. We, instead of having a lot, and they're pretty restrictive in zoning now too, what can go in those buildings. Maybe what we do is we have smaller businesses that are vertical. Instead of having a strip mall, maybe a commercial building converts to a series of small businesses within the envelope of an existing office. Only it becomes different. It comes along with adequate parking. It's already, set up in a way that it can support business activities with where they drop things off in the back, for inventory and whatnot. So I think we're just limited by our creativity and thinking. And then once we get our creative juices going, we have to take a hard look at the zoning that would allow those kinds of things to happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we'll close out that discussion for now. Oh, do you want to just briefly run over what's
So
coming up down the pike?
Yeah, sure. The upcoming things will be a community survey, as well as I think the subcommittee or representatives of the subcommittee are going to be meeting with the different advisory committees and other sort of, I don't want to call them focus groups, but just sort of other people who have a certain expertise or certain interest in that we want to make sure that we have reached out and discussed and gotten input from. So that's like the Environmental Commission, TAC, EDAC. It's a place, organizations like that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but we have members, or at least one member of many of those stakeholder agency organizations as part of the master plan.
They are. So that there's outreach there.
So broadening out to their groups.
We're going to be doing informational interviews, particularly with people who work in the town, this building, as well as people like the planning board chair, the zoning board chair, HPC, that sort of thing, that to get certain sort of informational input that kind of forms, and emergency services, et cetera, people from the schools, just to make sure that we have sort of covered our bases and got as much sort of groundwork as we can. And then in the fall, I think we're going to be working over the summer to kind of finalize what these macro topics are, finalize how we're going to potentially focus certain aspects of the plan. And then what we anticipate doing in September, October is having topical workshops that are really devoted to very, a more limited, these public forums or visioning workshops were open-ended, and these would be more focused on a specific, what I'm calling macro topics for right now. But, let's say it's on sidewalks or connectivity or bike lanes, that sort of thing, mobility, let's say. So we would be doing that in the fall. And then I think as it goes forward, we would be formulating goals and objectives and policies with this board. The subcommittee, I think, would maybe take the first draft and then come and sort of flesh these out in a public planning board meeting in the late fall, early winter. And then certainly by, April, we're hoping to have public hearings on the full draft. But by that point, hopefully you've seen it so many times that none of it will be new. And of course, those are public hearings.
I have a question. I didn't compare, there's lots of elements in the master plan. I don't know whether all of our discussion, what was discussed in the groups, touch on each element,
We did not.
or whether they should, or what needs to be done to make sure that all the elements are adequately addressed.
Well, first example, there is, one is on, sorry, Leanne, let me look at the elements just to remember. I was just thinking of one, I want to get the right title. For example, historic preservation plan element. That is really going to be heavily influenced by whatever conversations and input we have from HPC. We wouldn't want to do anything or make any recommendations that they didn't support. So and there wasn't all that much that came out in the workshops on that. So for example, that's a good one. Another utility service plan, I think that was that it was touched on, that people
Yeah,
had,
we didn't call it that.
but had concerns, but some of that is more technical and would involve probably Joe, and the same community facilities to a certain degree. Again, that's touched on, let's say community center, but there's certain aspects that, let's say for emergency services or, let's say police and fire, things that maybe no one really here is going to know what recommendations they would like to see, but that would come from those,
People really liked our police and fire.
Well, they might need
They
more,
really
they
did.
might need
Yeah,
more
no,
facilities.
great.
We just have to find out. So, but that kind of stuff, isn't probably going to come out of a public process so
Right,
much as it's
okay.
going to come from people who have a specific expertise and knowledge of those topics. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything from the legislative committee? Nothing? Okay, well, that's next. And then I will now open up to public comment, since we actually have some people. Do you have any comments, questions? Actually, could you come up to the mic? Yes.
We'll just need name and address.
Yes, sure.
Paul D'Antonio, 10 Crescent Drive. So I've been a resident for 35 plus years. Yes, we're in a fortunate position that we bought a house that's probably worth 5 times full at this point. And I understand the concern about, affordability. But it was raised several times as far as traffic is concerned. And as much as ideas of more density, the affordable housing, and yes, the JCP&L is going to be an eyesore with the setback that it is. You're adding traffic in all of those scenarios, potential scenarios for some. And until that's addressed, the B11 zone on Madison Avenue, would you like more retail restaurant that people could walk to? I'm sure that's being mentioned. But again, that's all heavy traffic in and out, accessibility. We have Punch Bowl, and I'm going to speak to the convent side because that's where I'm from. You have Punch Bowl, the roads misaligned. Restoration Hardware is supposed to fix that misalignment. It's stupid to sum it up. So these are all great ideas, and it's good that you're focusing on that. But if you're adding incrementally each of these ideas and you add it up in a big picture perspective, if the road stays the same and then trying to appease bicycle lanes, it's going to get 10 times worse, whatever times worse. So it's a challenge in front of you. And can't be done without that in mind, or it's not going to resolve. Everyone else who's always been there is going to be even more miserable in trying to address some of these concerns that we have. Affordability is an issue. And I'm sure if when my parents bought their house, and when I bought mine, it was 6 times what they bought it for. So we all go through these cycles, and unfortunately, maybe some of our kids are experiencing it at the moment. So maybe affects us, resonates more at the moment. But it's not something that hasn't not occurred in the past. So, and if my parents were alive and they think of where our house is worth or where theirs was, they'd be rolling over again. So yeah, it does happen, unfortunately. And one last comment: Morris Township is the neighborhoods, and we do have distinctly different neighborhoods. I mean, Convent is its own deal. Fairchild is its own deal, and the people do reflect the neighborhood. And part of that is because there's ownership. And one thing about Morristown, and I could understand the demographics of the young people wanting to move there or whatever, is that no one owns them. They don't have the ownership. And we do have the ownership. And that's why your neighborhood reflects that. And people find comfort in that. Our neighborhood is a great neighborhood. And anyone who's ever moved to it from out of state, they think New Jerseyans have 3 heads, maybe it's only 2 on average, but they walk away from the neighborhood and are very, they're surprised. So that's what the township is. And Morristown is a great, it's a great option to have. But it's because we do have ownership. So from a marketing point of view, it's the donut. And everyone wants to eat a donut. Everyone wants to live in a donut. To work on that.
And they'll come up with that idea. For $1 million. Everybody wants a donut.
Thank you, Paul.
I think that might be our new phrase.
Any other comments from the public? Then we will go ahead and close the public comment session.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. It's nice to get some people here. Okay, I guess that's it then, right? Oh, we don't, no reason for a closed session. Nothing there, so.
How
Mr.
about a
Ellis?
motion to adjourn?
Thank you for your
Second.
comment. That was very
Yes,
well
thank you,
received.
Paul. And there was a second?
Yes. Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.